postgame show is presented by Tri-State Audi. Visit your Tri-State area Audi dealer today. Tonight, the Knicks and the Wizards. Mikal Bridges, 20 of his 27 in the second quarter. The Knicks in the third quarter went up by 33. Wizards got within 4. The Knicks prevail. Karl-Anthony Towns, 31 points, 11 rebounds, and a much-needed win for the Knicks as they beat the Wizards 122-103. Great to have you with us, Bill Pito, along with Alan Hahn. We talk about this now on a regular basis. This modern-day NBA is just, the Knicks are up 33. The Wizards cut it to 4, and then the Knicks go on a 15-2 run to survive what would have been the worst blown lead since the stat was kept all the way back to 96, 97. Biggest lead the Knicks have ever blown in a loss is 28. This 33-point lead got down to 4. Thank heavens I was alone in here, or else you guys would.
I was the candy intake because knowing you were like,
you're out
hand to mouth.
Wally's not here. You're out on the doing the game stuff.
Support.
I was just all
you
alone.
And every Knick fan watching right now, right? Like I understand it. That's very relatable. But it is the NBA game. It is things that happen, and the obvious part of it was in that third quarter, the Wizards started making 3. They couldn't make a 3 in the first half. I think they were 2 for 16, I believe, from downtown in the first half, 7 of 12 in that third quarter. Does it make sense? Of course it doesn't. Marcus Smart stepping into threes. I think he hit 3 or 4 of them in this game, and he got it going. And, veterans in this league like him can just kind of feel like, I'm feeling good. Let me knock down some shots. You got to know how to turn off the water. And that's something the Knicks aren't recognizing defensively. Now, they held them off. Yes, they did. And they were able to get their offense back on track. The bigger story to me of this game is not really necessarily the almost blown lead. To me, the biggest story is how the ball moved in that first half. What they looked like offensively in that first half was more of what we were used to seeing throughout the season. That is the most important part because that's the team that they need to find again before they get to the playoffs.
No Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride out with a bad groin. Good games from Cam Payne and also Tyler Kolek, who had a career-high 7 assists all in the second quarter. But it came down to the Knicks just keeping it together enough, Allen, as we take a look at the fourth quarter, to not blow this lead.
Yeah.
Again, it was 92-88. They were within 4 in this fourth quarter.
And you remember here, there was some turnovers, and you saw the Wizards just were starting to feel it. They were running. Tom Thibodeau called them a dangerous team before the game. He wasn't kidding. And here's Marcus Smart. You're going to step back with your hand down. That's what a vet's going to do. He's going to pull up from 3. You can't do that. And he loves getting himself fired up, talking to the crowd. This was a huge 3. This stemmed the tide right here because it was a 4-point game, and you felt like another turnover and this thing could get ugly. But Cameron Payne came up with a huge 3-pointer there, and then Karl-Anthony Towns got it going. He was dominant in the paint, especially against Alex Sarr, the rookie. Knicks defense picked it up. OG Anunoby, a very determined drive right there. And Bill, that's really what it took. Somebody just had to make a big shot to wake things up. And you saw a couple of other players, whether it was Towns, whether it was OG, and of course the defense that really got this thing going.
Once it got to 92-88, the Knicks blow the Wizards off the court.
Well, Brian Keefe made a couple of substitutions where he took a couple of the veterans out, put a couple of young guys in, and the Knicks were smart enough to recognize that they had to put the pedal to the metal and get this win. And they certainly did. So that third quarter is definitely something to worry about, but I still look at the first half and feel like that was a good sign.
Points off turnovers, again, significant. 26 for the Knicks.
Yeah, that's a big number for them. Over 25. I think it's 23-2 now this season, I believe, something like that. I didn't have a chance to look the stat up. So Wally would be on my case about this right now. But you just understand that it's a very good record when they're over 25 points off turnovers. It shows you that they did get their defense going again in this game. It has been a struggle of late. But let's point out that first quarter. To me, the first quarter was very important for them. They've had bad starts.
You had a great number in the pregame. 11 of the Knicks' 15 first quarters since the All-Star break. They've been trailing. In this one, they were up by 10.
Yeah, shout out Skylar Darrell for that number. And it's a sign of a team that's got to be ready from the start of the game. They have not been of late. Is that fatigue? Is that just lack of focus? Whatever it is, they had to find it again. And against the Wizards team coming off a back-to-back, you're home. This is what you wanted to do. As I said, I loved the way Cameron Payne started this game. He got the start, and he just said, you know what? I'm going to be the catalyst. I'm going to be the guy to get us going. And that's exactly what he did. He knocked down a couple of threes. He was aggressive. Remember, in the Knick offense, Bill, the point guard position is not as much a distributor, facilitator, as it is a scorer. Somebody putting pressure on the defense. I love that back and forth there with him and Landry Shamet. But that's what Payne has to bring. Such an energetic guy, loves getting the start. It's his second start of the season, and the Knicks are 2-0.
Kolek, all 7 of his assists came in the second quarter.
And he was smart. Not only did he find OG Anunoby on one, but he kept looking for Mikal Bridges, who was the hot hand in the quarter. He was smart. Let me just find the guy that is making every shot, and I'll rack up assists that way. And also 0 turnovers, by the way, in his minutes out there. I love the way he came into this game, and he was aggressive when it comes to running the offense. Let's not waste any time. Let me not get caught up dribbling the basketball. Let me just get us into motion, get us to where we need to be, and get some guys going. And I think he was one of the reasons why you show Mikal Bridges get hot.
Look at these numbers here for the point guard comparison. Payne had 10 of his 13 in the first quarter. All of, 7 of Kolek's 8 assists came in the second quarter.
Look at 1 turnover between the 2 of them in 48 minutes. Fantastic.
One of the big reasons why the Knicks were up by 25 at the half was a play of these 2 point guards. All right, Monica McNutt, I wish we were able to talk when it was down to 4 points.
All I see, Monica.
What was going on in the radio booth?
All I see, Monica, is candy wrappers all over the floor here in the studio.
That's not
Pito, I get it. It was a little intense.
That's not
Shout out
true.
to Tyler Murray, my terrific radio partner. Cool, steady, calm, collected. I, however, was a little like, what is going on here? But I actually, in the postgame, talking to our terrific postgame host, Pat O'Keefe, I did have to give the team their credit for responding because it got down to 4. They did go on to respond. Shout out to Cameron Payne for that 3 that he hit the shot to sort of shift the momentum. But it was funny, you guys. We had OG Anunoby for our post-game interview, and I said, look, OG, what was going on in the third quarter? He goes, what happened? See, amnesia. Shooters have no memory. Then he goes, I said, y'all gave up the lead. He's like, oh, yeah, that's a confident group over there. They were down. They had nothing to lose. And he did add, we have to be better of making sure that teams remain uncomfortable and staying focused. But ultimately, the Knicks were able to pull it together when it mattered most to pull off this victory. And this is what they needed, guys. They needed to get home. They needed to be able to sleep in their own beds, get on their own home court, shoot on their rims to sort of get the engines revving again in the right direction.
And how big was it too, Monica? We'll get back to the third quarter stuff. But that first quarter, we've talked about the slow starts for this team. It has been a struggle of late. With Cam Payne making the start, he looked like a guy that said, I'm going to be part of the difference here. I'm going to get us off to a good start. He made a couple of shots early, knocked down a couple of threes, and the Knicks were able to just get that comfortable lead and not feel the pressure of having to climb back from a deficit in the first quarter. 11 of the past 15 first quarters, they were chasing the scoreboard.
This is what we also were just talking about in our post game. I think if you have not followed Cameron Payne's career, the things that he adds go a little bit under the radar, right? And one of them being understanding as a veteran in terms of the task at hand. He has to be malleable and able to wear multiple different hats. Some nights he's going to see the floor, some nights he's not. Today, obviously, he got a start for the Knicks, which I believe may be his first, if not his second start for this organization. So to be able to do that with the right amount of focus, to be able to respond, what do you have, 13 tonight and 7 assists? Mm-hmm. Like, that is a skill that I don't know that folks necessarily appreciate because you fall in love with your stars. But your guys that have to be role players and have to answer the call when their number is called without really any consistency on when their number is going to be called, that should be appreciated. So a tip of the cap to Cam for sure.
And Monica, the Knicks were down to their 4th point guard in this game as well as Tyler Kolek got to play in the first half for the first time since January 1st. What did you see from him in that second quarter? Because it looked to me like he knew he was going to play, and he was mentally ready to show out.
Yeah, I would agree. And the play that stands out was the and one play where it looks like he's about to get crunched by 2 Wizards defenders, and he, reminiscent of Jalen Brunson, is able to stay on both feet, remains balanced, and actually completes the and one play in terms of finishing that basket through contact. And then, of course, I heard you talking about it, Han. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mm-hmm. And that was him finding Mikal Bridges all throughout this ballgame. To pick up 7 assists in like 12 minutes of play, like who does that? What a night for that young man. And so I think tonight is important. Obviously, you want your guys to be as healthy as possible as the clock is about to start to strike postseason. However, you also want to see what's on our bench. And we all know that when it comes to Tom Thibodeau, his players have to earn his trust. And it's tough to do that because he's a little stingy when it comes to allowing guys to do that in terms of real game time. But I thought tonight was a big feather in the cap, so to speak, of Tyler Kolek.
All right, Monica, great stuff as always. Save that dress.
You know what, Pito? Just make sure you're ready for Clyde night, okay? Because we are coming with it. I don't know what you got, but we're going to be ready.
I'm going shopping tomorrow.
Come on, you need to do that.
All right. See you on Tuesday, Monica.
I think you'd look good in a Borsalino hat. I really think it would look good on you.
If I put on one of Clyde's coats, it'd probably go down to my ankles. You guys are talking about Kolek and all the assists. One of the reasons why he had 7 assists in the second quarter is because Mikal Bridges had his best quarter of the year. He had 20 of his 27 in the second quarter.
He just gets it going. When he gets hot and you see him just running around, you see him just, I love when he's cutting. To me, that's when he's the most dangerous, but he gets to his spots. He just had a bounce to him in that second quarter, and it was smart. Both Payne and Kolek recognized it, and they kept feeding him an early offense, quick offense. There's a contested shot, but he was already in rhythm. I love that hard bounce pass, set up in the corner, release, rotation, splash. Once again, Kolek it's so smart. He just had the GPS going. Where is he? Give him the ball. It was smart. And now, when you're in a rhythm, you're just getting to your spots and knocking down shots. No hesitation for Mikal Bridges. There was a lot of open space for him to get shots, and it allowed him to get into rhythm.
Only 4 shots taken in the second half.
That's the part that doesn't make sense a lot of times when you watch the Knicks, and especially when you see Bridges get hot, and then the second half comes, 4 shots, 1 3-point attempt. That's it after the red-hot second quarter he had. Is that the offense? Is that him not running as much as he was? Those are all things that you watch on film and have to work with him about, because as we've seen with him, if he can go like that, Karl-Anthony Towns can get 25 and 10 in his sleep. And then if Jalen Brunson comes back and he's another walking 25-point scorer, 30-point scorer, those are 3 high-end scores that you could put out there in a playoff game that is going to put a lot of pressure on opposing defenses. It's keeping Mikal Bridges consistent or making sure you're consistent in keeping Mikal Bridges involved in the offense.
OG Anunoby, by the way, 23. He's now got at least 20 points in 8 of his last 11 games.
The oh, by the way, right, with OG Anunoby is because what he does is so much part of the flow and so much off of defense.